ugly human truth. I'm not saying that Nick's hypothesis is necessarily the answer, but it's certainly stimulating to me. So, if we're dealing with an element of subterfuge, which I think all the evidence points to the fact that we are, who would be involved? I think would, like you said, obviously a black budget operation. But,
no question about it.
Yeah, but who else would be in on that? It's a good question.
When Hynek changed his views, from being a skeptic for Project Blue Book as their consultant to a believer, to the fact that he set up a UFO studies group out of Chicago, I mean, that told me, Mac, everything I wanted to know at that age, that there was something going on here.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it kind of mirrors Jacques Vallée's trajectory. He started off, thinking this could be explained, although in his case he did think it could be explained as extraterrestrial. And Hynek's views kind of merged, and he became a little more metaphysical. And that's one thing that is profoundly interesting about this phenomenon, is that once you immerse yourself in the stories and the data and all of it, you're initially struck with the physicality of it. I mean, you realize that there's something going on that leaves traces on the environment. It could be, maybe it's natural, maybe it's whatever, but it's physical. It's not a pop cultural delusion. But the more you look into it, and you start scraping away the veneer a little bit and start seeing behind the curtain, there's a metaphysical element to it. And I think that's perhaps just the way our minds react to something so strange. But nevertheless, it suggests that there's a deeper level of meaning. There's a deeper ontology at work here. And that's one of the reasons that I'm interested in the work done by researchers with DMT, people who ingest this molecule, report meetings with these strange little elf-like cyborg-looking creatures.
Yeah. I mean, I find that to be weird, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird, but I don't think you can readily dismiss the parallels with the UFO phenomenon as we all understand it. So there's different options about what could be happening. In some cases, I'm not necessarily saying that all UFO cases are due to people tripping on endogenous DMT, but it could be part of it. And if we find out something interesting about the mechanics of our brains, then that's a bonus. Ufology offers avenues to learn about the universe that don't necessarily have anything to do with aliens from other planets or from here on Earth, for that matter. And that's one of the interesting things about UFO research that is routinely overlooked by self-proclaimed skeptics who would rather just dismiss it all.
All right, it's time for Joshua now in San Diego. Josh, go ahead.
Hey, how's it going?
Okay, Joshua.
It's great to talk to you. I've been listening for a long time. I just was calling. I've had so many experiences. I'm almost losing count. And when I was younger, I used to kind of, enjoy the thought of maybe getting visited and things like that. And the first times I saw, lights in the sky with some friends, and a lot of people, they'll just kind of disregard it or laugh or whatever. And some people listen, kind of whatever. But over the years, it has gotten kind of out of hand, kind of almost scary, and it's not fun. It's terrifying at this point, and there's things. Sometimes it's so intense, and so these encounters that I've had. I'm not talking like face to face. I have had, seen a lot of weird people, and I've had conversations with people that I definitely I question whether or not they were human. And
Did they look human?
Well, there was one time I saw these things. These people, they looked sort of Ethiopian, I guess you would say. They were almost. They looked like. They looked Ethiopian, but meaning like they were black, but they had sort of a green tinge to their skin, and they were probably the most terrifying of all the ones that I've met. The other ones looked like normal people, but my own personal belief is, is that, well, my theory is that, if you're an animal and you're on a farm, grazing or whatever, you're going to be content. You're going to be doing your thing. You're not going to see the farmer very often until the day comes he's got to, the farmer wants to get whatever they need from you. And that's been kind of my experience. I've had, headaches ever since this has been happening. And
have you been studied, Joshua, or have you gone to anybody for this?
I'm terrified. I'm totally terrified. I've kind of been warned. It's not fun. And I'm mainly calling because I know there's a lot of people out there experiencing this, and it's like I've heard you say before. People need to talk about it, and I'm getting kind of emotional about it. But
well, let me ask you: has this happened to anybody in your family as well? I'm wondering if this is just an ongoing thing with your family.
Well, what's weird is when I was a kid, I had this experience. Maybe you call it sleep paralysis, and I've had it since then. But there was one instance when my dad, we lived in Florida. My dad was in the military. We traveled all over, and I've seen him everywhere, all over the United States, everywhere. And there was this one instance where there was these cats in my room, and I woke up, and these cats were literally looking down at me from a corner shelf in my room. They had knocked some books off, and they were really upset about something. A cat, when it's being threatened, it kind of hisses and does this whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, the strangest thing is there's 3 of these on the corner shelf, and they were just all stopped and looking. I was terrified as a kid, but I couldn't move. And I don't know what you call willpower or whatever. I knocked over my lamp, and it scared them. They went on the floor, and my dad comes rushing in the room, and he chases these things out. And he remembers this, okay? And the weirdest thing was that this happened many, many times, and the window in my room was always open. And there's been other times, where I've waken up and been paralyzed, and I thought maybe, I've had cats before, so I was, dreaming, and I feel like there's something at the foot of my bed, and I wake up, I'm paralyzed, it moves, and one particular time, it made not a cat sound, and I saw, when I chased this thing out of the room, whatever it was down the hall, there was a window open in the back room. And other people who've been with me have seen the lights. Other people have been sitting with me in a park or something, and weird people will come up and say things to me that at the time I don't know what it means. And that person next to me says, "Hey, what the heck was that about?" And then later,
let's get Mac's take on this, only because we've got to get to the break pretty soon. And Mac, is his situation, is Joshua's situation unusual compared to other people?
Well, I've read many other similar accounts, even up to the detail of the cats. I don't like to just come out with the weird possibility first, but just because we're talking about weird things anyway, some people would say the cats, as a familiar animal are a screen memory or something like that. I know a guy who he's outdoors a lot, and he had a few occasions where he'd see numerous owls around him a lot, and he thought this was really strange. And he was aware of the screen memory idea, and he made a note to himself that what I'm seeing are really owls.
Well, maybe they're shape-shifting. Who knows? We'll be back with final phone calls in a moment on Coast to Coast AM. Well, next hour, actress Daryl Hannah joins us, along with activist and environmentalist David Bloom, as we talk about alternative energy. That'll be our next hour on Coast to Coast AM. When we come back, we'll take final phone calls, your calls, with Mac Tonies on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back to Coast. I'm George Norrie. Mac Tonies, our special guest tonight. Final calls with Mac and your stories as well. Tell me a little bit about your work with the UFO documentary Best Evidence.
That was a documentary produced by Red Star Films of Nova Scotia, Canada, and it was a good bit-by-bit kind of laying out the phenomenon in an unbiased way. The film was kind of produced with the idea like, here is the phenomenon for what it is. We're not drawing any conclusions about it, but these are 10 very good cases. Explain them if you can. And I was not teaching